Next on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend, the UTEP Miners beat the UT San Antonio Roadrunners in a shutout game yesterday. We have all the highlights. And dozens of Fort Bliss troops are on their way to help in the fight against Ebola in West Africa. ABC-7 was there as troops departed. We have all the details on Operation United Assistance. And it's the race for El Paso County Commissioner District 4. Republican Andrew Haggerty faces Democrat Julio Diaz. It's right here on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend. And live from Mount Cristo Rey this morning is meteorologist Cristo Cly. Cristo.
Josie, good morning. We are out, as you said, live at Mount Cristo Rey. If you plan on making the pilgrimage, what can you expect today? The details are coming up today.
It's all the news you need to start your Sunday, October 26th, 2014. ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend starts now.
Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend.
Morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Josie Ortegon. What a game yesterday. The UTEP football team beat the University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunners at the Alamo Dome. The Miners shut out the UTSA Roadrunners with a score of 34-0. Both the Miner offense and defense put up a fight and kept UTSA from putting up points on the scoreboard. Their record is now 4 wins and 3 losses for the season so far. The Miners play next weekend against the Southern Miss Golden Eagles at the Sun Bowl. Congratulations to the Miners. And moving on to storm track weather now, let's get a look at your first forecast with meteorologist Cristo Clyde. Cristo, good morning.
Josie, good morning. We're live out here at Mount Cristo Rey getting ready for the pilgrimage that goes on the last Sunday of October. Already tons of people here. I can tell you that if you plan on making your way out here for that 10 a.m. beginning to head up the mountain, you're going to want to get out here as soon as possible. The traffic is bad, but the good news is the weather is very nice outside. Let's start out by looking at your clouds and radar map. We've just got a few clouds outside. Otherwise, it's nice conditions. No rain that we're tracking around the region. And for the most part today, we aren't expecting much in terms of rain. Maybe a few spot storms to the northwest of El Paso, Las Cruces, but in our area, just a few clouds. Let's talk temperatures. Outside currently, it feels great out here. Now, if you're a wimp like myself, you might want the light sweater. I'm seeing a lot of folks with the light sweaters, but some of them already tied around the waist. We're at 58 degrees in El Paso. Your winds are at 5 miles per hour. Good news, if you're going to be making the hike up here, those winds should remain light through the beginning of your day. It's later today. We're expecting the breezy conditions. Over to Las Cruces, similar situation. Breezy later on today, but a nice start to the day. Mostly sunny outside. Your temperature at 55 degrees and winds currently calm. Now again, we are outside live at Mount Cristo Rey. We're going to be talking with some of the people who run the pilgrimage just in a bit. We'll also be looking at more of your current conditions if you're coming out here, what to expect, and moving through to your work week. That's all coming up in just a few minutes. Josie?
Thanks, Crystal. And moving on, the first group of Fort Bliss soldiers deployed to West Africa loaded up yesterday. The deployment is part of Operation United Assistance meant to help contain Ebola in Liberia. ABC-7's Jerry Nakara was at Biggs Army Airfield for the departure yesterday. He has more.
A lot of the soldiers are actually anticipating this deployment because they know it's a great humanitarian effort that's going to ultimately save lives.
Lieutenant Colonel Lee Peters tells ABC-7 as soldiers prepare for a 24-hour flight to West Africa, crews load one of 2 C-17 aircrafts with supplies. This is the first deployment of soldiers from Fort Bliss's 1st Armored Division.
Ebola is going to be at a distance. In the event that we are ever faced with Ebola, our guys are trained, they got the suits, they'll put those on. Very unlikely that we'll ever see that.
The soldiers will be taking thousands of gallons of water, food, fuel, and generators. The supplies are expected to last about 15 days. Command Sergeant Major John Collegy tells ABC-7 the deployment is part of an initial advanced deployment. The soldiers' task is to prepare for the close to 300 soldiers expected to land in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, in the coming weeks. Fort Bliss says the operation is a pretty big ordeal.
They're going to be doing about 8 hours of flying hours per day, flying across Liberia, taking supplies and equipment out to the areas where they're building the ETUs, which are the Ebola treatment units.
The soldiers also have other worries that they have to deal with overseas.
There's going to be a lot of heat and a lot of humidity, and our soldiers are going to be fighting mosquitoes because of the heat and humidity and the standing water in that area, and course, with mosquitoes, they deliver malaria and other mosquito-borne diseases.
Another danger, terrorists or rebel threats.
Everywhere we go in the world, it's a global issue, and with that, we're going to have to always be vigilant. Our threat in that area may not be high, but we will always be ready in the event it does.
And that was Jerry Nakeda reporting. The soldiers are expected to stay about 12 months. It could be more or less depending on the level of the Ebola threat. In total, approximately 700 service members are now deployed to West Africa. The Pentagon says that could grow to upwards of 3,900 personnel. And El Paso police are still investigating Saturday morning's triple stabbing. This happened shortly before 6 a.m. at an apartment complex on the 10,000 block of Montwood in East El Paso. Police say 2 groups of men got into a fight and 3 men were stabbed. All 3 victims were transported to nearby hospitals for treatment. No arrests have been made just yet. Be sure to stay with us on air and online for the very latest. And 1 man is dead after he was shot early Saturday morning. It's a story we first reported to you yesterday here on Good Morning El Paso Weekend. Now, according to police, the shooting happened on the 4100 block of Byron. Police say 30-year-old Juan Arenas was shot and taken to a local hospital with serious injuries. He later died. Police arrested 32-year-old Deshaun Leonard. He's charged with murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and he was booked into the El Paso County Detention Facility on a $300,000 bond. And a woman is in the hospital recovering after a crash involving an 18-wheeler. The crash shut down westbound I-10 between Tornillo and Fabens yesterday. And just take a look at some of the damage here. Deputies say a Camry hit the 18-wheeler from behind at a high speed, injuring the 7 people inside the car. The car was damaged in the crash. Deputies also say no one was wearing a seatbelt except the 50-year-old female driver. The woman was airlifted to UMC with extreme life-threatening injuries. And a Mesquite man is dead after a crash in La Union, New Mexico. That's near Anthony, Texas. Police say it happened on State Road 28 and the intersection of San Jose Road Friday night. New Mexico State Police investigators say the driver, 25-year-old Esteban Herrera, was speeding when he ran a stop sign and tried to make a left turn onto State Road 28. That's when they say the car skidded off the road and hit a wooden electric pole. The passenger, 25-year-old Patrick Nieto, was thrown from the car. Nieto later died at University Medical Center here in El Paso. Police say he was not wearing a seatbelt. Herrera was taken to the hospital and is in critical condition. Police say alcohol was a factor in the crash. And on a much lighter note, we're giving a family 4-pack of tickets to the Amigo Air Show right here on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend. The fun-filled air show will be next weekend, and we'll have all the information on how to win the tickets later in the show, so sit tight. And we have some traffic alerts for you that will go into effect tomorrow morning. The installation of underground utility and stormwater infrastructure will close Wedgwood Drive near Montwood. And both northbound and southbound drivers will be required to follow detour routes on Montwood, McCrae Boulevard, and Elbum Avenue. And the closure will also affect Sun Metro bus routes as well. Because of that construction, Route 52 will be detoured. Sun Metro bus drivers are going to do their best to make courtesy stops along the detoured route. And again, for any Sun Metro riders, the detours may change, so just be aware of that as you head onto the bus. The project will improve street and drainage as well as improving the landscape, irrigation, and sidewalks. And it's expected to be completed February of 2015. It's your voice, your vote, and ABC-7 is helping you get informed this election season. Later this morning in a debate, it's the race for El Paso County Commissioner District 4. Republican Andrew Haggerty faces Democrat Julio Diaz. Again, the debate is this morning right here on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend later in the show. And still ahead on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend, Isleta Independent School District trustees are assessing district buildings. We'll tell you why coming up. Also, it's a battle of the bands. Area bands showed off their best moves and tunes during the tournament of bands at New Mexico State University. We'll have that story coming up after the break. Time now is 8:09. Let's take a live look outside, courtesy of our Texas traffic cams. Roads are clear at this time. I-10 and RESLER. So if you're headed out and about for any Sunday morning brunch plans or on your way to church, you won't run into anything major on the road. And in storm track weather, Crystal is live from Mount Cristo Rey. Crystal.
Josie, good morning. Great start to the day. If you plan on making the pilgrimage, we're going to talk about your conditions up here on the mountain. We'll also talk about what you can expect moving right on through the next 7 days after your break.
You're watching ABC-7, where news comes first.
You're watching ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend with Josie Ortegon and Storm Track Weather with Dan Martinez.
These cases, as FBI KVIA director said before my committee, are really one of the most difficult to stop. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack and then getting them out of that radicalization towards a de-radicalization path.
And Matt Olson, again, on the fears of this copycat, but is there a strategy to stop this?
You know, I agree with Chairman McCall. These are very difficult to stop. I mean, this is the kind of violence that we've been concerned about, this spate of violence over the last week. We need to learn more about the motivation from each of these. Obviously, each one is under investigation. But again, this is the kind of violence from these homegrown extremists that we've been concerned about over several years. This is not, this is not a new phenomenon. The propaganda we see from ISIS does give us additional concern because they're very good at putting out their message online and seeking to, have their supporters carry out attacks wherever they are. And as Chairman McCall said, it's very hard for local law enforcement or the intelligence community to stop these single individuals who are seeking to carry out these small-scale attacks like we've seen over the past week.
Let's go back to the attack in Canada. Canadian officials say the shooter was upset because he couldn't get a passport to Syria or Libya. Would things have been different in the United States? Would we have been able to track him in a different way? Matt Olson?
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly.